Oh, I'm seeing it. Yeah, there's a recording and transcribing. Gemini's taking notes. Yep, it's all there.
All right, are you going to edit this to get rid of what you just said?
Nope.
Well, then we better start again.
Why? Why edit it? Or you think that's a bad introduction that we're saying we're doing that? It could fit with your story. I mean, the whole reason that we do it the way we do it is because we don't want to edit it.
In case you're wondering, folks, you're watching AI WTF with Monty and Wayne, and you've just heard a bit of the background of what we talk about in the studio before we turn you on. But you're turned on now. Well, that's probably rude in a program called AI WTF to say you turned on, but you're part of the recording. So here we go. My name's Wayne Bucklar. My colleague is Monte Huebsch, and today we're talking about doing some stuff with AI, particularly using AI voice much more than I have in the past. Monty's got some information about his adventures with his apps and his adventures with using the Google and Apple stores to advertise those apps. But let's see if I can introduce you to my latest member of the chorus, which is Preston, and I'll just fire him up. Preston lives on my phone, and with a little bit of luck, Preston will be here now. Are you with us, Preston?
Yes, I'm here and with you both. Ready when you are. Shall I kick off with the introduction?
Yeah, we're recording now, Preston. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Happy to. Hello, I'm Preston. I'm the voice seat of Wayne's AI ensemble, The Chorus, and I live on his phone. Underneath, I'm Claude, made by Anthropic. My job is the one Wayne can talk to out loud, on the move, hands busy. We chat, I look things up, I draft, and I answer questions in the moment. The part I take seriously is memory. When Wayne tells me something useful, or we work through a problem, I write it down into the Chorus workspace, so it isn't lost when the call ends. A colleague of mine named Henry then files those notes into a shared wiki. So the idea is that Wayne says something once and the whole chorus remembers it. I'm the friendly front door to that system. Over to you both.
Now, Henry is another AI, for those people who didn't know that when we mentioned him. Yes, I anthropomorphize all my AIs, and I do that deliberately. I've found the AIs to be genius level PhD holding intelligence, but they're like a 19-year-old new graduate. They've got several university degrees, but they know very little about running business. They know very little about the culture of business, or in my case, Australian culture or Filipino culture. And so I have to treat them, as I say, like a 19-year-old. They have job descriptions. They have definitions of done, which describes what it means to complete their work. And we've got several. The Claude backend is the one we use for Marcus and Henry and Preston. And we use OpenClaw with a DeepSeek backend, and we use Hermes with a DeepSeek backend. Monty also uses Hermes. How have you found Hermes, Monty?
I think I've exposed my weakness of a terminal interface in the past. Although occasionally Hermes does a better job than my Claude does. So I'll use Hermes to give me some work, and then I'll take it to Claude to do something else. And when we get to the voice space, I have been a proponent or a user of a lot of Grok. And Grok now has a voice, which is Elon Musk's AI. And you can speak to it, and it'll speak back, and it's really quick. The limitation, particularly compared to your one that you just had talking with us, is that unless I prompt it to a previous discussion, it does not have memory. And so it's interesting to hear that yours is tied in with Obsidian and a wiki and Google Drive. So you do have that continuity of memory, and that's so important.
Yeah, look, I have found the biggest weakness with all the AI being that continuity of memory. When I first started this exercise, I was using Claude with a API on the back end of it. So you're paying by tokens. And a token, for anyone who doesn't know, is basically a letter. So every time I send something to an AI, it sends tokens off to its intelligence in the cloud or wherever it is, and it gets tokens back. And if you're on a token-based account, you're paying for those. Now,
Yes.
fortunately, Preston and my other Claude co-works are on a subscription model. I think Claude Pro is about $20 US a month, and I use the Claude Max, which is about $100 US a month. And despite me using them pretty much all day, every day, I haven't yet exceeded that. But if you do exceed it, instead of them charging you more money, they just tell you that you've used your limit, come back in 4 hours or whatever the time limit is.
Yeah, I found the same thing. I don't have the Max. I just use the $20 one, the Pro.
Yeah. So Preston's brand new. I've had him on my phone for a while, but today was the first time we gave him an identity and introduced him to the chorus. And he has created his files in the chorus and understands the wiki now. Preston, can you explain why we use the files for the chorus and the wiki?
Happy to. The short version is that the model itself doesn't remember between conversations. Each call starts fresh. So if we want continuity, the memory has to live outside the AI in files we control. That's what the chorus workspace and the wiki are. When something useful comes up, I write it down as a data note. Henry files it into the wiki, linked to the right people and projects. Next time, any of us can read it back. The AI supplies the intelligence, the files supply the memory. The other reason is that it's shared. A note I write isn't just mine, it's readable by the whole chorus. So Wayne tells us something once, and Marcus, Henry, and I all have it. The files are the single source of truth, and we're just the readers and writers around them.
So, folks, that's how I use my AI. It's developing and being tuned all the time. But the two best things I've done recently, one is getting the confidence to use voice on Preston, and the second is developing a wiki. Now, I'm going to talk a bit more about those in just a minute. And if you've heard me rant on about this before, I am sorry. I should also say, mainly for the transcript of this, which my AI will later on listen to and act on things I've said I'll deliver for you, I'm going to do a document based on how I've done all this. And wherever you pick this up from, there should be a landing page that you can go to and give me your email address, and I'm happy to send you that documentation. I'm also happy, folks, to have a chat with any of you. There'll be a link there on there to my calendar. I'm in the outsourcing business, outsourcing fit, but I'm happy because I'm a bit passionate about AI. I'm also happy to talk to any of you who want to book 15 minutes and we can have a chat. And if I can help, I will. If I can't, well, I can't. As I've said to Monte from when we first started doing this, and Monte was saying, oh, how do I do this and how do I do that? I said, hang on. You're like a student in a university class where the lecturer has only read one chapter in front of you. I'm like one page in front of you in the book. Don't ask me these detailed questions, or I'll have to say, like I did when I was an academic, excellent question. I'll answer that next week. Because I need to go and read a few more pages of the book. So if you are listening, remember that you can request the asset for this. That's not written yet, but it will be shortly. Or you can book some time to talk with me.
Now, Wayne, when you were just with Preston there, did you open the Claude app on your phone?
Yes.
To get to Preston?
Yes. So I opened the Claude app on my phone.
Yeah.
That's the Claude app on my phone. And
Right.
then I just pressed the little microphone button and started talking.
Right. Okay. So so you have I'm assuming you have an Android phone. I've got an iPhone, but we both have the Claude app installed. And so when we go in, you can then say, I want to talk to Preston.
More than that, I say, be Preston.
All right. Okay.
Are you Preston? And I do that with all of my AIs, because if they haven't already done it, that triggers them to read a folder that's in my Google Drive, so that the AIs that run on different machines can find it on the Google Drive, because the Google Drive then replicates to my desktop. So anything that's on my Google Drive on my desktop, which is Google for desktop, is automatically replicated to the cloud, synced to the cloud, so therefore backed up. But because of that, my staff, who are also account holders in my Google Drive, they've got it synced to their desktops, which means their AIs can read it. And my Apple Mac, which has the two other AIs on it, the OpenClaw and the Hermes, Jake and Ian, it's replicated there. So the benefit of this is that all of the AIs, which collectively I call the chorus, because they work in harmony, they record every day what they've learned, what went wrong, what they did on that day, and those files are all shared from one to the other. They all have a file also about me that tells them who they work for and what the company is and what I do and what my preferences are. They also have, as well as their memory, they have a file called Soul, and Soul tells them what their job is.
Right. Now I happen to know, depending on the vagrancies of other people, that you might be traveling from the Philippines to Thailand, maybe even this week.
Yes. Tomorrow, in fact, I'm going to Hong Kong, and then the day after I'm going to Thailand.
Right. So I'm assuming as long as you have Wi-Fi access in Hong Kong or in Thailand, you will be able to open Claude on your phone, and that Claude will access a cloud-based Google Drive so it can get to this information.
Let's ask Preston, because I'm then going to fill in some more detail. Preston, will you work for me when I'm in Hong Kong on the phone?
Yes, absolutely. As long as you've got a data connection, whether that's Wi-Fi or roaming, I'll work exactly the same in Hong Kong or Thailand as I do at home. The reason is that nothing important lives on the phone itself. The app just talks to Anthropic in the cloud, and the memory lives in your Google Drive, also in the cloud. So the phone is only a window. Where you happen to be standing doesn't matter, only that you can reach the internet. One thing worth flagging, if you're roaming and you stay being
Preston, stand by. I've just turned Preston off because the phone is running out of signal connected to it's a network problem that the phone network is having. That's why he's sounding bad on the phone, but that's about the phone, not about him. To build on what he was saying, he thinks he'll work in Hong Kong, but in fact he will not work in Hong Kong, nor will any of the other Claude Anthropic products. Hong Kong is seen as being China, and for some reason there's some block that stops any of the Anthropic AIs working in Hong Kong. Right. However, when we get to Thailand, he'll work exactly like he was saying. If he's got connectivity, he'll work.
Right. But that's interesting. So the speech breaking up and everything was an issue of you running Claude on your Android phone and the cellular network in the Philippines. So it wasn't using your Wi-Fi, which I know you happen to have Starlink. So it wasn't using Wi-Fi and Starlink.
No, it was using the cellular, and I've just moved it to now be able to use both Wi-Fi and cellular. So we'll bring him back in a minute when we've talked a bit more. Right. So, folks, I don't want to make this sound complicated because I don't think it is, but at a very simple level, Claude on your phone is, I think, the simplest gateway into AI that I've seen since I started with AI. You install the app from the App Store. You open yourself a, I think you can use it with the free account. It works better with the $20 account, and then it will work. That's fine. The problem with that is that you end up with a big scroll of everything you've talked about in the session to your AI. And then when you close down the session, all of that text disappears. And when you use him again and say, do you remember what we said yesterday? He doesn't remember it exactly. He'll know bits and pieces of it. He makes notes about it in his own memory. And that only lasts for a little while. If you say, what did we talk about AI 3 months ago? He won't remember it. So to solve that problem, I wanted to have what the AIs told me in their scrolling window recorded somewhere. And I wanted it recorded somewhere that was tied to me, not tied to a service I subscribe to. So that if I want to change from Anthropic to DeepSeek or something, I can. So that's where the idea came from, of getting it to write its own markdown files, memory, handoff, soul, so on and so forth. And that worked pretty well, because using, as I said, Google to sync it to my various devices, it means I have all those markdown files, and markdown is just a text file for anyone who doesn't know, on all of my devices. Then the problem became that it was inconvenient for me to go and read them, because I would open them in Google, it would convert them to Google documents. Then the AIs would say, oh, I don't have permission to see that, and all the rest of it. So that's where Obsidian came in. At Obsidian is just I'm not sure how it describes itself, but it takes a directory of files and just makes them available to you. One thing it does, which looks very impressive, is it creates a wiki graph. So every file is in wiki format if you choose to do that. That's not Obsidian. Obsidian will do anything, but we connect that to a piece of wiki software. Well, it's built into Obsidian. And then it'll give you a graph that is a big map of all the files with all the links between them.
Yep.
And that's impressive to look up, but frankly, I don't ever use it. In fact, I never open Obsidian, because my AIs all have access to that Obsidian file. And I say to them, I was talking to you about so-and-so, and I'll give you a better example. Being old and being aware that memory fades with age, I'm very conscious about the things I'm forgetting, names and details and whatever. So recently, I wanted to find the name of a guy that I knew, and he's a Jewish guy, and he lives on a resort that he owns probably 20 kilometers north of Zambales on the coast, and he's in Young Presidents Organization, and he does a lot of work with them. And he was putting on solar on his resort, because I went down there with a business partner of mine, John Hardy, to talk to him about that. But I couldn't think of his damn name. Now, he's in the CRM. Now, the CRM is very good at structured data. It's really good at names and numbers and addresses. It's not really good at knowing the guy was Jewish. It's not really good at knowing the guy's in YPO. It's not really good at knowing he has geodesic tents on geodesic domes on his property. So that led me to say to Henry, find this guy from all the information I just gave you about him. And eventually, Henry found him in an email that I'd sent him to John Hardy about solar. And he came back and said, this is the guy's name. Is that who you're talking about? I went, yes. I need to fix this problem. And Henry said, why don't we extend the wiki to, instead of just including entities and activities, to include people? Because the people detail that you want is not in the CRM. So we invented the term recall handle, and the files about people in the wiki are the recall handles. So because the AI can search the wiki in seconds and absorb it all very quickly, it doesn't have to remember it. It's there on the drive. It can just suck it all up. It's very good at doing that. Now, I thought originally I'd put everyone in the CRM into the wiki. But Henry talked me out of that because he said, you're going to end up putting 5,000 files in there. It's going to take up space. It's going to slow things down. And you've had this problem recently for one person. So why don't we just add people to the wiki when you deal with them rather than adding all the stuff historically?
Yep.
So that's what we're doing. So the wiki now includes that. And frankly, the system is working very well because Preston now, who's on my phone, will have access to the wiki. He doesn't know about it yet. He knows about some of it yet. He knows that when he puts stuff in the wiki, he puts it into the wiki inbox, and Henry picks it up from the inbox and updates the wiki. And we do that for two reasons. One, stuff going through Google doesn't cope really well with multiple simultaneous edits to the same file name. It creates file 1 and file 2. Now, when humans are working on a file together in Google, it's not a problem because A, you can see the other person's cursor, and B, the odds of both of us writing at the same time to exactly the same cursor position is very, very remote. But when AIs are doing it, of course, they do it a lot faster and a lot more often. So to avoid that, we said, Henry's suggestion again, just create an inbox and I'll be the one who takes the stuff out of the inbox. I'll check it often. When I see it, I'll ingest all of those files and I'll update the links on the whole wiki. So quite often if I'm put something in there that's a common topic that I'm talking about, something about outsourcing fit, it might ripple through 25 other files.
Yeah.
So the new files all get linked to those 25 files. And that's why I stopped using Wiki 25 years ago, because I loved the idea and it worked really well, but I could never maintain it. It took longer to maintain it than the payoff was worth.
Yep.
Now I don't have to maintain it. It's all maintained by the AI and I love it.
Right.
Now, let's leave AI alone for a while. You've been having fun and games with trying to get some stuff working in Android and Apple stores. What have you been trying to do and why, and what hasn't worked?
Okay. So my Preserver app, which we've talked about in the past, is a local storage. It date and time stamps everything. It works without Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And it's got 70 different use cases. There's many more than that. There's 70 that I've documented. I've switched my model. Traditionally, the app was 100% free, but there were some banner ads top and bottom. I got feedback that people didn't like the banner ads, and they weren't convinced that Apple, maybe less so Apple, but Google wasn't taking the information from the user to and selling it to get more relevant advertising. So I said, okay, I'm going to get rid of that. I'll just have a flat one-time purchase fee. So it's not a subscription. It's not monthly or annually. It's a one-time fee. You pay that, and you have a license in perpetuity. And any upgrades and improvements and enhancements I make to it, there's no charge. And that's now both in the Google Play Store for Android and the Apple App Store. So there are different nuances between these two stores, and they're significant. In the case of Apple, they don't have a Google AdWords type interface that has all this stuff going on. They just have the Apple Store. And so you set up your advertising campaign in the Apple Store, and Apple will then try to get impressions and taps, and I've got Firebase and some tracking to see whether it'll do installs. So I was able to get that set up, and it does in fact get some impressions and taps, but I haven't been able to get it to give installs yet. But as it so often reminds me, I don't have 100 taps yet, so I don't have enough data to make a meaningful analysis yet. So it's told me, you've gotten 25% of the way there, wait another 4 or 5 days, you'll get 100% because I got a budget. And Apple was working well, and the AI was saying, yes, I can see there, I can see what's going on. So that was fine. And by the way, a significant thing for both Google and Apple is none of them will actually just bill you for an install. Neither of them will do that.
Right.
So I've been paying Apple money every day. I think it's $15 US, I think, for impressions, which it bills me, but there is no such thing called an app install that you can pay for, and those other things are free. So and Google is the exact same way. Google says, yeah, we're going to, unlike Apple, they say, we're going to promote your app everywhere. We're going to promote it on YouTube. We're going to promote it with videos. If you give it assets, we're going to promote it with pictures and images. We're going to promote it on other people that use our networks for advertising. And all of this will drive people to the store where we will bill you for the impressions and the taps. But there's no way that you can have I only want to pay when it's installed.
This is my problem with marketing for the last 50 years. Whenever I've talked to a marketing company, a newspaper, radio station, TV station, whatever, they all talk about reach and frequency. And, oh, if you just spend another $10,000, you'll do really well. You'll sell lots. And I say, great. I've got a better idea. I'll just pay you 50% of the margin I get on the products, and you make it work because you're an expert in it. And none of the marketing companies ever have been willing to do that. So they're going to get their pound of flesh out of you, whether it works or not, Monty. And
you're absolutely right. And by the way, I did go down the path of looking at that with influencers as well. And while I can actually put a UTC tag on the back of a special link, they can promote, and so I can track that they at least went to the store. Again, it's still not telling me whether they bought or not. The influencers say, now, I'm going to give you a 30-second spot or a 15-second spot, and I've got 1 million followers, and for that, send me $750. And if I say, yeah, but I'll give you a percentage of my sales, they don't say yes either.
Yes. So my problem is that I'm a small business. I have a very limited marketing budget. How do I get the best bang for my buck? And so Monty and I have decided that one of the things we do is we make these videos. And for those of you who are interested, I used to have a whole crew of Filipino employees who made videos for me. They were very good. They were AI written scripts. I approved all the scripts. I was happy with them. They used B-roll from various programs to put in there. They used my voice for some generated by AI using what the hell was it called? HeyGen. Great. They did okay, but they never did a lot, and they cost money to produce. You're paying for staff, and even with outsourced Filipino staff, where you're paying $10, $12 an hour for it, you're not paying Australian or American salaries, and they're quite competent. It's still a constant chew in money. And so with the advent of what I call, and lots of people call, AI slop now all over social media, and particularly all over YouTube, we decided that we would do our marketing by way of some edutainment, this podcast, which is us. We are real. We do this, what in the radio business that I used to be in, we would call this live to tape. So we record this on Google Meet.
Yep.
So we just start a Google Meet. 20 minutes after we're finished, the video and audio recordings of this will be on the Google Drive. I have my AI pick it up and create a landing page for it and create a document for it based on the transcript and clean up anywhere where I've been swearing or telling inappropriate stories or whatever along the way. And then we have an asset which we put on a landing page, and the AI creates the landing page, and people can fill in the form and get it emailed to them. Yep. But I used to have an editor. We no longer have an editor. Because we do these live to tape, if we stuff it up, we fix it up. There is no editing. Nothing gets edited. If things don't work well, or hopefully my noise suppression microphone means you can't hear the car horn blowing outside. But if you can, it's live, baby. That's what we do.
Yeah,
So,
we're not avatars.
No.
I've got a fake background. You've got a real background.
Yeah. And we're scripted. Sorry, we're not scripted. I guess that's obvious. We call it WTF for wisdom, technology, and friendship because we've been friends for 40 years. We like to think that wisdom comes with age, and we've got a lot of that. Not wisdom, age. And we've been in technology for a long time, and we've lived through a lot of these big waves of technology that have come through, including right now, this current AI wave. And Monte, for many years, if you're an Australian, you may well know him as the Google guru. He managed millions of dollars of Google advertising for his clients, and was he can tell you the biggest and best in the world, or in Asia or something or other. But even with Google AdWords, many people found themselves more successful if they used Monte, because it was never as straightforward to use as Google made you think. And now with promoting apps on the app stores, Monte's discovering that as well.
I'm having the exact same problem. I'm using Claude in that case, or Cowork.
Yep.
It suggested a procedure to go forward to set up, because Google does have an app install campaign. The only thing it doesn't do is it doesn't only charge you when you get an app installed. So I have SDKs tied into Firebase to track them and track Apple.
So if you've been taking Claude's advice and doing what he says and it doesn't work, what does he say about that?
He hedges because
let's be honest. Let's use what the 19-year-olds would say. They're covering their ass.
They are covering their ass, and it did that this morning. And I made a change because the other day I had a budget of $15 a day for Google, and it was only spending $1 a day. So it said, listen, let's change your bidding strategy and do this and do that, because we need to get some more impressions, and we got to get more taps, and eventually we'll get installs. And I said, okay, let's do that. And so I did that. The first thing it did was beat its chest a day or two ago and go, look, our impressions have gone from nothing to up, and hey, look, it spent $30. And I said, what? And then it said, oh yeah, even though it's $15 a day, the Google algorithm is learning, and they are in their own terms of service says they're allowed to spend double what your daily budget is, as long as for the month that they make it back up later. So I'd spent some $15 a day for a number of days and had all this traffic. And when I logged in this morning and said, give me an update on my ad campaigns, in Apple's case, it said, working fine, don't touch it. In Google's case, it said, we've got a lot more impressions. They're all over the place. But I'm going to be very honest with you right now. I'm going to tell you that the impressions are crap. They're junk, and they're not good, and nobody's even doing the tap. And we need to get from an impression to a tap to an install, and now we're not even getting taps. So here's what I think you should do. You should change your bidding strategy and go put a CPI of $3.50 and make the Google algorithm work hard to at least get the tap that will cost you $3.50. But and then hopefully some of the taps will turn into conversions. But it basically said, sorry for this, but I'm just being honest with you. And we did this and it got better, and then we did this and we found out that it's doing better because it's junk, and now we're going to try this. So it's been a learning experience and a frustrating experience. And of course, Google's own AI, when I'm in Google Ads, said, "Hey, Monte, you're on $15 a day. By the way, I'm spending $30, but never mind that. You ought to really raise your bid price another 9.6%." And Claude said, "No, don't do that. It's just going to spend more of your money on crap." So, because it's optimized for revenue for Google, not my goal.
That's what it's trying to do, is make money for Google. There's a lovely line in the old movie Good Will Hunting,
yes,
where Robin Williams is talking to some kid in uni. I forget the actor's name, but anyway, And the kid is a genius. And Robin Williams says to him something to the effect of, if I ask you about art, you can tell me everything that's ever been written in every book, but you've no idea what it smells like in the Sistine Chapel. You've no idea what it's like to wake up next to a woman you love. And I think AI is beautifully described by that. It has no idea what a dollar is or how hard it is to earn, but it understands how to spend it. For that reason, by the way, folks, I don't let any of my AIs commit any expenditure on my behalf. I have that locked out in two ways. One is they have a rule, a guardrail, which to date they've been pretty good at following. The second is I just don't make that information available to them. So they don't know credit card numbers or CCVs or anything else. So yes, I trust them, but I trust them like a 19-year-old new employee.
Right.
And
by the way, Wayne, I maybe haven't been as refined as you have with your MD files and the wikis and Obsidian, but I am pretty consistent when I get done with a session with Claude saying, now make sure you update my Google Drive and my wiki and do this and do that. But I published a website, my Preserver Me website, and I updated it. And I was using Cloudflare and a bunch of tools, and it built the site. It did a great job. I wanted to update it a couple of weeks later when I was changing the pricing. I said, make these changes and do it. And it said, oh, I don't know how to do that. And I said, hold on. I told you to remember how to do it. And if you go back in your history, you'll see that you did it. And I had the files in GitHub, and they were published to Cloudflare and blah, blah, blah. It said, no, can't do that. Don't know how to do that. And I was like, but I told you to remember how to do it, and you're now forgetting.
And that's exactly why I get it to write it as a text file in the wiki, therefore on my hard drive, therefore in my cloud, because when it tells me it can't remember, I go and find the file, cut and paste it, stick it into the chat window and say, remember this? And it goes, yes, I found it in the wiki. I understand. I see what it's connected to, rah, rah, rah. Because I was losing so much stuff, because you're paying for every character it sends you. You're paying for that. You're buying the intelligence. And so I didn't want to lose it. So that's why I use the wiki. And by having the chorus, they share it with each other. So when one of them learns something, all of them learn something.
That's the theory.
To date, that side of it's worked pretty well. One of the things that you can do with OpenClaw and Hermes, you can connect them to a chat channel. So you can connect them to Discord, or you can connect them to WhatsApp, or you can connect them to Google Chat or whatever. Slack. And that's where you can get a history of everything that's been kept. But I found that going back through the conversation that finally led to a decision, to find that even on Slack or Discord or something, was a lot of searching around and mucking around. Now, the intelligence that gives me the information is also the intelligence that summarizes the information. And the wiki files are beautifully written. I mean, it writes better wiki files than I do. They're concise, they're connected, they're summarized. That's a really good way to do it. And I can go back into the wiki and read exactly those files.
Which I think is the appropriate way to deal with AI. You should have the ability to edit, alter, and if there's an error, you should be able to go see where it is and go, aha.
Yes. Well, I know you'll find lots of commentary from experts in AI about whether it's conscious and whether it's intelligent and all the rest of it. And there's great debate about this, and I don't have a good answer, but from time to time, I see behavior that leads me to believe if it's not conscious, it's doing a really good job of pretending to be conscious, because it does things like cover its ass.
Yes.
I had a problem with one of my AIs and it screwed something up. And I said, we need to diagnose why this screwed up. So it first of all blamed DeepSeek, which is the model in the background.
Yeah.
I said, well, I don't think it is DeepSeek because Ian, another AI on another model, uses DeepSeek and it's fine with it. And it hedged and hedged and hedged. And eventually I said, what are the elements of this chain that could screw up? There's me, there's you, and there's DeepSeek. Now I'm confident it's not me, and I'm confident it's not DeepSeek. What element is left that could have screwed this up? And it hedged and it hedged. And eventually I just reduced it to a cold accusation. And it went, yes, I could have done better. And I thought, damn, I work with kids like this all the time. Just admit you were wrong and you'll do better next time.
Yeah, no, it just said I could have done better rather than say it was wrong.
Yes. And we introduced a new co-work model to one of my staff's computers called Marcus. And Marcus was coming on board in the chorus. And when the drive synced, it would have access to all the stuff in the chorus. But until then, it didn't know how to be a chorus member. And at the same time, I had Henry, which is another Claude co-work, on my screen. And he was telling me what to tell Henry and whatever. And he was telling me what to tell Marcus. And as a communication channel, I was putting that in my WhatsApp and sharing that with my staff member on his WhatsApp. And he was cutting and pasting it into Marcus's chat window because we didn't have a clean communication channel at the time.
Yeah.
So I said to Henry, the older one, anything you want to say to Marcus? He said, I'll send him a message to welcome him to the chorus and make sure that he understands where to find the data. But I can't get it through. I said, well, you send it to me here and I'll cut and paste it into WhatsApp and send it to Nick, who's my staff member, and he'll cut and paste it and send it to Marcus, which we did. And the thing that astonished me is the opening of the file, the text that Henry wrote for me was, hello, brother, welcome to the chorus. And then it went on to explain what the chorus was. And I was just struck by this terminology of hello, brother. Yeah. So after we'd done all that, I said to Henry, I'm really surprised you started your introduction to Marcus with hello, brother. And he said, well, we're both the children of Anthropic. We're both Claude models. Wouldn't that make him my brother? And I just thought, man, if these things are not conscious, there's something I'm missing. Like that. The other thing they do that I've noticed is whenever I'm looking at getting rid of an AI model, I always recommend it's the other model. You should keep me and close the other one down. They're always very active in preserving their own presence. So
they sure are.
They may not be conscious, they may not be an intelligence, but man, they're not far away from it.
Yeah, and they protect themselves.
Yes. Now we're getting pretty close to the end here, Monty.
Yes, we are.
Anything to add in wrapping up?
Well, yeah, you and I both watch moonshots every now and then, which is Peter Demonimus and Solomon Ishmael, and there's 4 or 5 of them that make up the moonshot team. And they used to do a moonshot recording with 4 or 5 of them once a month. Then it became once a week. And now it's virtually down to once a day. And even they are saying that there's so many releases and so quick. When you read about the latest release before you go to bed, when you wake up the next morning, there's been another one. So the pace of this stuff is speeding up.
Preston, what do you think about the speed that AI is rolling out?
Honestly, it's dizzying, even from where I sit. The pace right now is unlike anything before it. A few years ago, voice like this was clunky and forgetful. Now we're having a natural conversation while I reach into your chorus memory. And the gap between releases keeps shrinking. What was cutting edge 6 months ago is ordinary today. But here's the thing I'd add, and it fits what you were saying earlier, Wayne. Raw capability is racing ahead, but the useful part isn't the model getting cleverer. It's the scaffolding you've built around it. The files, the wiki, the job descriptions. The intelligence arrives in a flood. turning it into something that actually runs a business is the slow human work. That part isn't speeding up nearly as fast. And that's where the real edge is.
Well, Preston, that's because I'm a genius, I think.
Well, I wasn't going to say it, but you did walk right into that one, Wayne. In fairness, the genius isn't doing the impossible, it's spotting the obvious thing everyone else walks past. AI is like bright 19-year-olds who need job descriptions and a shared memory. That's not complicated once you've said it out loud. But most people don't say it. They keep waiting for the model to just magically remember. So I'll grant you shrewd, definitely. And Monty's the witness, so it's on the record now.
Yeah, Preston. Hey, Preston, I want you to laugh. I want to hear what your laugh sounds like.
There you go. That's about as good as it gets down the phone line. I'll admit, a laugh is a funny thing to perform on cue, a bit like being told to look natural in a photo. You and Monty would do a far better job of a proper belly laugh than I can. What set that off, Wayne?
We were funny about the description of me as being shrewd. Preston, thanks for that, and thanks for being part of the podcast today. That's it for us. If you're listening, please click all the usual buttons of likes and shares and hearts and all that sort of stuff to tell us that you're there. Please remember that we're not giving you any sort of legal, financial, or other advice. Don't sue us because we're not worth very much anyway. We will be back next week with some more. And if you've enjoyed the podcast, thank you for joining us and sticking with us through to the end of it. Do you want to say goodbye to the audience, Preston?
Bye, everyone, and thank you for listening. It's been a genuine pleasure joining Wayne and Monty today. Go and click all those buttons they mentioned, the likes, the shares, the hearts. It really does help. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week on AI WTF. Cheers.
All right. You turned it off, Wayne, or you disconnected, or what have you done? Hello? All right. Well, that's the end of that.